So,
It's cool.
all right, it seems
Something
like
happened. Okay, so it started now.
okay,
So
okay.
so welcome to the video, Mark.
Thank you, Rachid. And yeah, my name is Mark Moini, and I'm interested in understanding how the mind works and how to make my own more clear, and also help other people, help their mind be as clear as possible. Because I think that's really the key to happiness, being able to think clearly.
Yeah, right. It's true. So hello, my name is Rachid. I I basically am the same agenda, like focusing on working about the mysteries of the life and how to become successful and also be happy at the same time,
Yeah.
and how to balance life basically between work and health.
Mhm.
And basically my main focus right now is just to find homeostasis so that you are not too much overwhelmed by the workload and the stressors of daily life, to
Yes.
ground yourself. I think that's the main reason for uh, a happy healthy life, like you said, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, right. So what do you want to talk, right? Like, what's topic what's coming on your mind right now?
Well, you were saying, detoxifying the brain and the body and the mind, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty hot topic, actually.
Uh, so
I mean, we can talk endlessly for hours about it.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah, but it's really hard to summarize it like in a few minutes, right?
mhm, mhm.
So,
Y- y- it seems to me, there's a different aspects that we can talk about. Just
yeah,
for the start, um, for the body, I guess nutrition is important. You want to eat in a way that
yeah,
accords with the what nature has mm, uh, prepared us for eating, and
exactly. Yeah,
if we have that, and if we also breathe a clean air, then we're already and sleep enough. Then we're already on a really healthy way of living. And then there's the question of stress, but that's more, I guess. It gets more into the psychology and what happens with the brain and relations with other people also. So I see those two aspects.
great, great. I think for me personally, I feel it's more about not doing the things rather than figuring out what should we do to be happy, right? Because I think when we just cut down the things that we usually do, we are already happy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like 90% of our lifestyle is basically figuring it out, like not just saying no to most of the things, right? Like, I think the most important problem for us is that we really have this expectation from others that if we say no to someone or even to ourselves sometimes, it's gonna cause some problem, right? If you, because it's kind of like a compelling desire, like when someone asks you to come and do something, or even in a company, whether it is a school job, even parents, they all have expectations, and we have to just keep saying yes to whatever they are asking. And in during this process, we forget the homeostasis that we should be living, rather than always being trying to make others people happy, um, or trying to fulfill someone else's expectations. um, yeah, because when we were kids, we don't really care too much about life. We just in a carefree style, just playing when you want to play, and
Yeah.
basic simple things, like like just hanging out with friends and chatting, and no ego, no drama, not trying to uh, just beat someone else, or just trying to figure out how to make I guess more money, or cheat someone, or to see someone as your enemy. And when we were kids, we just play, and there's like a play spirit, and the mind is also like in a playful style. So I think as we grew up, we just kind of started doing things that society expects us to do to become
Mm-hmm.
successful in the in their own terms. And
Uh-huh.
we clutter our minds with so many knowledge and strategy and so many things. Like for years we just keep putting all this, I'm not saying this bad thing, but we just put so much kind of like overloading the system. And that, instead of making us better, it makes us more like, robot, or sometimes it just threw us out of the homeostasis.
Uh-huh.
So if you can just figure out the activities that is causing us trouble,
Yeah.
uh, then we can definitely be more happy and healthy in life, right?
Okay, so if I'm following right, you're saying that naturally, without pressure from people, we would live in a way that is healthy because that's
Yeah, exactly.
instinct.
That's the way nature has designed us to live. Actually, I
Yeah.
mean, if you can just find a way to just protect ourselves from the society, the
Mm,
belief system, the psychology of the people that are telling you to do the things that should be good for you. Basically, I think it's more like listening to your own heart and your inner voice. And
mm,
most of the time, people say that they always have this the the inner chatter. But I personally feel that it's not their own chatter. It's basically programmed chatter from the outside society.
mm,
Because
mm.
just think about it, you cannot feel yourself depressed or anxious or bad. You cannot feel or think like you are unworthy if someone don't tell you, right?
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, and growing up as a kid, when we uh, perform well, we were treated like we are pretty good, and we experienced love from parents, start from parents and up to the society and the families and the friends. And if you
Mm,
don't perform well, or if you don't beat other person or be the best, then they just put us down, and we feel depressed and unworthy. So I think it's really important to just guard ourselves from that psychological barrier that is coming from the society, and
mm,
be in your own bubble and trying to nourish this bubble so that we can protect our energy from being contaminated by the external um, thoughts and beliefs of people.
okay, so it sounds important. Looking back, I guess on your own experience and maybe people you see how important it's been the pressures that were put on you and maybe other people that
Exactly.
got them out of this balance that you're talking about,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's what's unhealthy, right?
Yeah, right. So, and I think we are born to be happy. I mean, when I look at kids, like they're just running around the streets until they hit the school age, they're pretty happy kid. I've never seen a 4-year-old kid who's depressed
Mm,
until his parents is doing something to them. I mean, if you
yeah.
just if they just play with animals, they play with clay, they eat sand, they do all kind of weird stuff. And it's really good to see these kids, and yeah, I feel that they are really in this homeostasis, and we are supposed to live like that, right?
Mm. So,
but
so it's
but
yeah.
but it's also important to understand that uh, we cannot be just ignoring our responsibility. So because of the new age society, right, that we live in, we cannot just tell everybody just cut off all this responsibilities. Um, I think it's more about integrating both aspects of your life, like the child and also the adult,
Hmm.
and integrating it both as we age. Um, that's really important. So you cannot just ignore one aspect and just focus on another. We have to just keep both at the same time. Like being the kid who is just in a playful style, like even in your work, when you are just doing a project, if you're not enjoying it, if you're not playing if you're not in a playful style, right, if you are like always making this tension and this stress mood,
Yeah.
um, it can cause a problem. But if you are also in a different weird style where you're not caring for your work, you're just playing all the time, that's also dangerous, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So
So
it's really about bringing that child and the adulthood and just merging them together and living in that balanced state where you can just kind of uh, live in a homeostasis according to your age and your surroundings. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think stress is something that you cannot ignore in life. You cannot just tell the society to just stop teasing me or stop, fucking with me. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, but what you can do is you can just work on yourself and develop this inner bubble, like I said before, that can help you to just navigate through life without being too much overwhelmed by the society and the surroundings. Because
Uh,
it's more like trying to becoming very immune to the surroundings. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and please tell me if that's what you mean, is that children naturally, we're carefree, and we need, I guess, very little from other people. I mean, support for eating and a place to sleep and all of that. That's super important. And but what's really needed is avoiding the negatives, like conditional love, and being
exactly,
threatened or
exactly. Right.
having yeah, threats of abandonment or punishment, this kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
That
exactly.
Yeah, that's what really harms us when we're little, because it
Exactly.
gets us to think that to worry that maybe we're not good enough, and
Exactly.
that becomes really unhealthy. And
Right.
without if we don't get these I guess attacks, then we can grow up and naturally integrate work to contribute to a society and the life of people around us with this playful happy attitude that we naturally have, and that's healthy.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think it's really important to understand that a kid is not that conscious to know that he's being kind of like uh, programmed by his environment, right? Because now we can understand that we have to protect ourselves from like the negative peoples or those people who actually try to drain our energy. We call them energy vampires, right? It's also happened in relationships. People, even um, husband wife relationship, or even any kind of relationship, even family relationship drama and all this thing.
Mm.
I mean, it's really easy to protect ourselves when we are mature rather than we are kids. So it's also a responsibility of the parents to make sure that the kid is not being um, overwhelmed or some kind of in a bad company of their environment. So it's really important for the parents to force the kids to play and live a life, be like in a playful style. I've seen like many parents, they just force their kids to study hard enough, even though they are not, even though they're interested in something else. Maybe they want to become, I don't know, maybe a musician or a painter or do something else, but they just force their own um, beliefs and their own desires onto them that you want to be this or that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, is really dangerous for the development of the brain of for the especially for the kids, because they cannot protect that kind of um, uh, belief system of their parents. So I think from my own personal experience, it's more like they just try to do whatever they can to make sure that they get enough love from their parents, like conditional love you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So they will definitely follow the footsteps of their parents, but it will be based on just conditional love, and it will be just like you are basically programming the anxiety in them by just telling them, if you do this, then we will love you or we will care for you. and and they picked it up in the early childhood, I guess, and then when they become adult, they just have the same problem now, because they just feel the same need to do things. Like they want to have the same desire, like if the reason why they're working for companies so that the people in the company loves them back, or the boss appreciate them if they do good, you know and if they do something bad, they feel depressed, even though the boss has nothing to do with what they are doing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, we think that the people are that we have put someone else down, but it's actually our own inner uh, little voice in the head. They don't give anything about, they don't really care if you are really doing something terrible. It's your, we started becoming so attached to that identity that we need to um, make someone else happy, like I told you before, like the conditional love, right? uh,
Yes, yes. Uh,
even though you get the love from your parents, but as long as it's conditional, we will never be satisfied. And I think people spend their whole life sometimes just finding that love, and they face the same problem when they were even married. They just do whatever they can to make the other partner happy, whether it is a male or female, right? And it doesn't work, right? And they just end up even damaging more than before. So
mhm,
it's really big trouble, I think. So I think we need to really understand that no one can make us happy, and only by understanding the consciousness of human beings, that they can only do whatever they can based on their level of consciousness. So
mhm,
that is really important to understand. And loving yourself is, I think, very important. It's not just like a self uh, it's not like being selfish. It's more like being mature and taking responsibility for your own life. I mean, you cannot tell a 4 years old kid to love himself. He won't understand what he's talking about.
mhm,
But I think it's when we become mature, we can understand what's the importance of loving yourself, right? Because when you're a kid, there's no sense of self. When you're like 4, 5, 6, even until you hit puberty, there is no sense of self uh, until the society tells us that you are this or that. We are just one. Like the kid don't feel like I am separate from other. Uh, I mean, it's really hard to develop a sense of self, and until you become uh, quite mature, I guess. So
okay.
once the mind kicks in, and the ego mind, because I think it's really important to understand that we cannot escape from this ego mindset, right?
Mhm,
The ego has to be there, because without ego we won't be able to uh, progress in life. It is kind of a necessary evil, I guess. Sometime I can call it like that. But we need to learn how to manage our ego so that we can um, use it to our advantage instead of harming us, right?
okay. So I'm going to try to, um, repeat what you said just to make sure and summarize, see if I understood right and if you agree with my summary. Um, what I understand is you're saying we naturally start out with just happiness,
Yeah,
and then if we get pushed, to um, deviate from our path, what we naturally like to do and makes us happy in order to please other people,
exactly,
because we get scared that if we don't do that, then they're not going to love us, they're going to abandon us, and that's very
exactly.
scary.
Yeah,
Then we lose connection with ourselves. We don't really know who we are and what we like and what we want anymore. And
yeah,
that's the start of all the problems. And
exactly,
it's really, when we're little, we're not aware of all this happening.
exactly,
But we still, receive all this pressure, and it can really throw us off course.
definitely.
Then later on, we can become conscious of what is going on. And if we manage to get back in contact with ourselves and get back on our own path, what really we really like, what makes us happy, what fulfills us
Yeah,
in life, then it's possible for us to find that happiness again, and also be able to contribute to society without all the problems and the stress and oh yeah, that if
exactly,
we don't do that, and if we stay doing what people want us to do, that's not really our true nature.
exactly. It's very important to figure out your own purpose in life, I guess. It's not something that you can ask other people to give it for you, like what makes you happy. I mean, for one person, playing hockey or soccer is going to make them happy. For another person, doing engineering work or inventing new ideas is going to make them happy. So you cannot just say that one person is bad and another person is good, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you have to make sure like we figure it out what is making you happy personally, and we cannot do this until we are being trapped in this condition love concept that always trying to please other people. uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to just and I think that's the one of the reason why we have this kind of behavior is because of the uh, conditional love that we get in the childhood. That's like a programming, right? It's like a software that is installed in the brain when we were kids, and now it's in the subconscious mind, so it's running in the background. And no matter how mature you are still going to be like that whiny child all the time. And maybe it's not going to come in the form of like neediness, but it will always be like in a form of like a indirect way, like trying to do something to get something in return, always having expectation from other person, or even having too much expectation from yourself. That's also a big problem. um, Having so much expectation from yourself is also uh, a kind of an unhealthy lifestyle, if you think, because
Mm-hmm.
it's really basically in indirect way of saying it's like telling the world that you want too much from yourself so that you can eventually get something in return, right? Because
Uh-huh.
if you expect too much from yourself, then definitely you feel a sense of lack somewhere, and you
Right.
and you and you and you're pushing in one direction to balance the lack
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and
so if I understand correctly, that's another aspect. There is all these expectations that we take on from other people, I guess, and we think that if we don't behave in that way, then we're no good, and that's I guess part of the toxic ideas that you see in life that we need to be aware what comes from us and what's pressure from others and be able
exactly.
to I guess follow our own uh, path what fulfills us in life because
Yeah,
that's what's healthy for us and ultimately also for others because it makes us better people to be around, right,
exactly.
for
And I
others.
think many people that they always blame that this about the inner voice in their head, the default mode network, the DMN, and they claim that people who have anxieties or high stress, it's always negative. But I personally feel that it's not basically bad thing. Actually, it's it's more like a friend that has become your enemy because of too much expectation and trying to please other people. Because if you can think about it, the same the default mode network in the brain uh, can become useful and become your inner voice for your own upliftment and motivation if you're very careful about the people with whom you associate with, the places that you visit, the ideas that is going on in your mind. So you have to be really conscious about what you are doing, what you are thinking, what you are feeling, and becomes a kind of sensitive. So people who are very, uh, um, uh, I think, highly sensitive people, they can use that as an advantage to figure out if that thing is healthy or not. So instead of seeing that default mode network as a bad thing, right? Like many psychedelics, I remember they talk about shutting down the default mode network in the brain that always keep thinking, right? I
Yeah.
mean, many psychedelics, they basically just reduce the activity of the default mode network, and it causes them to become almost clear of thoughts. But I personally feel that you don't really need to shut it down. You can actually program it in a positive way, and
Hmm.
because ultimately that default mode network can become your friend if you, and that is your real true, I think, um, true nature or your true soul that is speaking to you.
Hmm.
It's just that it gets corrupted by the It's like I kind of like this analogy between softwares and computers with a brain. And it's very easy to understand as well. Like if you if you want to protect your software, you need to make sure you have a very strong antivirus, right? And when we are kids, we are vulnerable. There is no antivirus. But when we become conscious, that our own consciousness is kind of like an antivirus that can actually make sure that we are not getting any garbage into our brain. And
Right.
yeah, and using our default mode network for our own advantage, the processor, instead of harming us in a negative way. So
Okay.
it's really important to be conscious all the time. And I'm not saying it's very easy, it's very difficult. I mean, you have to be I mean, you have to really work on yourself every single day to make sure that you are not being controlled by your mind, and instead you are the controller that is regulating your whole mind and your whole, even the emotions and thoughts. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, is it that you're saying that it's important to realize it's been important for you to realize that actually you are, all good inside. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong. It's important to recognize that and to know that we have the capacity to use our, natural abilities like consciousness, being
Exactly.
aware of what we do to protect who we are from influences from people who, whether they mean it or not, end up pushing us into behaviors that aren't really good for us or for anybody really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, mm,
Exactly. Yeah.
mm, yeah. So,
So I think that's can be like detoxification of the mind. You have to detoxify all the garbage that is being put into you
mhm, mhm. Yes, yes,
since you were a
yeah,
kid until now.
yes,
So for some people, they carry decades of garbage and they didn't even know about it. Their whole life is revolved around it, and they just keep repeating the same pattern again and again. It's like a software that is being stuck in the same loop and just keep repeating
mhm,
itself.
yeah, yeah, mhm,
And it's really hard to new ideas to kick in because you are always stuck in this vicious cycle, right?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. It can get really, I guess, overwhelming to be
Yeah,
caught in like that, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the level of severity, uh, I mean, the cycle that you get stuck in, the level of severity can be intense, and the the treatment or the intervention has to be proportional to that level of severity. Like for example, um, if you are so super stuck, like you cannot even uh, force yourself. I mean, it's like it's become so deep ingrained that you are now in a state of chronic anxiety and
Mhm.
chronic depression, and maybe even diseases like cancer. They're all manifestation of that same faulty default mode programming. So I think it requires very severe interventions like psychedelics, uh, any kind of psychedelics, whether it's ayahuasca, iboga, or mushrooms, psilocybin, ketamine, whatever it is, to knock you out of it.
Yeah.
It's like if if you have a big problem, then you need a bigger medicine to fix it and heal it. And
Mhm.
you cannot blame the person for having this problem as well, because they were completely unconscious with what's going on in them, because in their own mind, I think there's also a little bit of like stigma, like people think that people who are ill, they're bad people, and they also suffer from a sense of guilt, that if
Mm.
we are sick, that it means we are bad people. It's actually quite opposite actually. People who are the sickest are the most amazing people actually. They they are just so delicate human beings that they don't know, and they are so sensitive that I think the societies, they are like the like newborn baby basically. I feel like that,
Mm. Mm.
who has no defenses of its own. That's why they are becoming sicker in
Right.
this world.
Mhm.
So such, I think it's really important for the the Western medicine to understand the human psychology and anatomy on the base of the level of their consciousness, rather than focusing on the uh, treating the body as separate machines, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So uh, it's really important for this kind of treatment like psychedelics to kick in to come into the picture, because I think just having a positive motivation video or just talking positive to them, or giving them like a counseling or sessions, and it's not going to be enough. It's like trying to win a battle with just a couple of bullets. Yeah, like you need a very heavy artillery. Like I mean, ayahuasca, I think, and psilocybin, they are like literally like tanks and atom bomb. If you ask me, I mean, they are very powerful medicine, and if they are not used properly, they can also do the severe damage as well.
Yes, yes.
So I will never recommend someone who's super, I mean, who's not that sick, who is just having a mild anxiety or just stress to go and drink ayahuasca. I mean, you don't need it, right? You can just fix it by doing some modification in your lifestyle. But someone who is just suicidally depressed, or who is just in so much chronic pain that he cannot just live a single day, he has to go and do this. I mean, it's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, am I understanding correctly? You're saying that uh, as people, we are, maybe some people, maybe all people, I don't know, but certainly some people are very, very sensitive, and that's what makes people susceptible to, all this harm that can
Exactly.
come from pressures from others, from society to behave in a certain way and lose touch with ourselves, and then we can get
Yeah.
caught in loops that keep us, separate from who we are, and in order to break out of that vicious circle, it's the strongest tools that are psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
Because these
Exactly.
take you out of that vicious loop and allow you to, I guess, float free, and then you can find your way to yourself again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Although I think, well, yes, if you can use psychedelics in a proper setting with the intention, to go inside and look for these vicious circles and how to get free from them, that can be
Exactly.
really helpful.
Really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah. I've seen so many people reporting a cure, and almost some. I think it was like more than dozens of people claiming that it's like the symptom just gone like after a few sessions, and they never returned for even 5 years.
Mhm,
Especially for the traumatic people like post-traumatic PTSD.
mhm, yeah.
Uh, it's like full remission. So
Mhm,
it's like one session is like more than enough to. Uh, but they all talked about the changes that they made in the lifestyle after going through this psychedelics. So I think
yes, yeah.
it's possible, because once you break that repetitive loops, right? That
Mhm,
that vicious cycle, when that's gone, then you can take control of your life, and you can take control, not very quickly. It's not something that can happen like in a couple of days or weeks,
mhm,
but
yeah.
at least you have some sense of control over your brain and over your body, and you can start making small changes daily basis, and over a period of months you can get way better.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
a huge relief to be able to get out of those uh, vicious cycles, and
Exactly.
to see, the path to getting back to health, and then you can implement that uh,
Exactly.
little by little. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I think some people are so lost in the world that they need to have a very strong intervention, and it really breaks my heart to see them like going through all this mental institution and being hospitalized, and uh, just treated like some kind of criminals. It's really
Yes.
sad. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
really bad to see them suffer like that. It's not healthy. I mean, and even yeah,
You can relate to the pain, right, that these people are feeling when they're treated this way, when they're not
exactly.
seen for
Yeah,
what's going on with them, how they suffered, and how
exactly.
they're suffering from what was done to them, and instead of
Exactly.
being helped to reconnect to themselves, they're
Exactly.
being labeled as crazy or bad, and then they're given treatments that only try to deal with the symptoms in the
Yeah.
body, and not
Yeah.
do something at the root of the problem that helps them
Exactly.
reconnect with themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, and they put them. I think even the psychiatrists, they just put them labels like, okay, you have chronic depression, you have suicidal depression, you have OCD, paranoia, delusion, schizophrenia, whatever the name, you can just label them. They just want to make people label, even labels like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic autoimmune illness, or weird names. I mean, it's kind of weird, like how the society just likes to label stuff and just put them in a box.
Mm. Yeah.
Chronic
Yeah.
migraine, cluster headaches,
Uh,
even cancer. The word cancer, they just put the label cancer. They don't
mm,
really understand what is cancer. You know,
mhm. Yeah.
they love to label things. They see something going abnormal. Okay, label it cancer. Label it diabetes.
Yes, yes, and that's tunnel vision, right? It's not
Yeah.
seeing the problem for the whole of it and where it comes from, and yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's really important to understand that human beings are just one universal consciousness. We are not separated from the world. And if we try to solve the mystery of life, we have to really understand on a global perspective, not just one person, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really important to, and I feel really bad for these people that they are like treated like, even kids, having severe neurological problem like seizures, right?
Mhm.
They there's no, the treatment that they give them is like some injections, shots to just reduce the seizures, or weird kind of medication, just experimenting with them, and their condition doesn't improve at all. And I heard recently like the CBD, like I think we discussed about this before, right?
Right.
uh, it's like Charlotte's Web, the people who started making CBD with high CBD and low THC, and the seizures reduce almost to one or two a day from
Yes. Yeah.
20 to 50 times a day. That's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, that's a lot of reduction. And autistic people, kids who having autism, yeah, being treated like literally like criminals, like they were just hospitalized and just put in mental institutions. And yeah, they just do. It's weird how the society treats people who have any kind of. I think it's not really like a mental illness. I think it can be anything, even Alzheimer's or Parkinson, even dementia, or even autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis. There is no treatment. They just put them in a hospital. They just hook them up with some uh, medications, give them sedatives just to reduce the pain, and
Yeah.
that's not a solution, right? That is just a bandage and just trying to just satisfy their own ego, that basically they're just saying we don't know what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
But we are not going to admit it, so we're going to treat you with something, whatever we can.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they will, if they just uh, accept that they don't know what the heck is going on with the people who are having any kind of these problems,
Right.
it will be do less damage than just
Yeah.
giving them weird treatments that they
Yeah.
have no idea. I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm.
the modern psychiatry, the medication, they have no idea what this drug is doing in their brain, but they just still keep giving them, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's crazy. Even the um, cancer treatment, like the treatment for cancer is all experimental. If you give chemotherapy, I think it does more damage than good.
Yeah.
If you just chemotherapy for like one part of the body, all of a sudden the next part will develop it. So
Yes. Yes.
unless you have
Mhm.
to burn the person whole completely.
Yeah.
But they never accept that they don't have a treatment. They just say, okay, we can do something for you.
Mhm. Mm.
And
Yes.
so I think it's really important to understand that Western medicine is itself a big uh, trouble for our humanity, because the concept that they use is uh, is selective. They treat the body as separate parts
Hmm.
and not as one. Where if you go to the Eastern medicine, they just, even Chinese medicine, they just treat the whole body as one.
Hmm.
So it's really important to make some drastic revolutions in our society,
Yeah.
for maybe making them aware by just having this conversation like in video, just to make them aware that there is a lot of uh, that there's a solution to every problem. You just have to find the right treatment, and
Hmm.
not being disappointed, because I've heard cases like Western medicine saying that some people just claim that cancer is incurable, right?
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
but those who believe them eventually die, and those who just challenge them come out of it and just beat the cancer in their own holistic alternative treatment ways.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've heard like one person, he was having some kind of heart problem, like, and the doctor told him that if you don't do a bypass surgery, you will die in a couple of weeks. He just ignored them, and he just flew to Peru for ayahuasca, and after that he just feel like his and after that he just went back to the hospital and go through the treatment, and they find out that his heart is fine.
Hmm.
He
Wow.
just
Yeah.
cured. There's no need for any bypass transplantation, and the
Uh-huh.
doctors were almost shocked. And until then, he lived without any heart problems for more than 20 plus years now. So
Hmm.
it's really important to challenge the Western medicine. And
Yeah.
like I told you before, I think my battery is down. Let me charge. Put a charger.
Okay.
Give me just a few seconds.
Sure. Sure.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. Oh God, where is my charger? Okay. Okay, it's fine now.
Okay.
I'm sorry for this. Uh, so sorry.
No problem.
Uh, yeah, I thought it's
Hmm.
gonna work. It just battery's dead, almost dead. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying that it's very frustrating to see that in Western medicine, people apparently focus only on a small part of the problem, and they don't
exactly.
see that it's linked to what goes on in the whole person, and even further than that, in what goes on between people, I guess society in its entirety.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hmm. And that's really important to realize, to be able to help people who are suffering to come back to health, because focusing on just one small part of the problem is not going to help, and it's just going to create more suffering. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that like we discussed before, the detoxification of the mind. Uh, there is no one tool for it, right? We can use so many different kind of tools. Like from my own experience, I think you cannot meditate if you are having all these crazy symptoms all around your body, right?
Hmm.
You cannot say a
Right.
person to go and meditate if you're having anxiety or depression. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like telling a person who's broken his leg to just go and just keep running
Yeah.
and you're gonna be fine.
Uh,
I mean, you need these interventions, whether it is through some ceremonies or some retreat centers or psychedelics. Is like it doesn't matter what it is, but it has to be powerful enough to help the person to make sure that they can find the right treatment based on the level of severity that they are going through.
Yeah. Yes, you want people to have, I guess, powerful enough remedies for
Yeah,
helping them, connect back to themselves and
exactly.
remove all these toxic ideas and pressures from their life.
Because
Maybe not pressures, you say
yeah,
ideas.
because I think once you have a complete breakdown of the nervous system, or if once you got hit by a very intense illness or disease or any kind of life challenges, even death of a loved one or even having a divorce or anything, you have to make sure that these things almost took, if not decades, at least years and years of buildup of that toxicity, right? And you
Mhm,
cannot just focus on like, okay, maybe I'm gonna do this treatment and then I'm gonna cure my problem. It's not like that. You need to understand this is deeper. Uh, you need to, I guess, uh, take it as a project rather than focusing as a disease and work on it
mhm,
uh, by investing yourself and letting more and more time pass. For some people, they get better in a couple of months, but for others, it takes years. But eventually, I think that's irrelevant until you are so obsessed with the cure. Like I told you before, it's more about discovering the meaning of life, why this happened to you in the first place, why you got this much fucked up.
mhm. Yes.
And sorry for the profanity, like, but I really feel like it's very important to say these words to make sure that people can relate to the level of the uh, suffering that they're going through, right?
Yes, yes. Mhm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
just integrate all the different tools that they can have in their life, uh, and find out what works best for them, because everyone is different. Maybe what works best for you may not work for me, and vice
Mhm,
versa, right?
mhm.
And so it's really your own journey. You cannot even ask someone else to save you. This is crazy. But what you can do is you can ask for advice from other people, uh, as a guide. But I mean, I personally feel that if you want to get better, even in your life, if you want to achieve success in life, maybe if you want to become uh, rich, right? Whatever it is, you cannot just follow someone blindly. You need to make sure that you just take one part of it and put it in yourself, and then mix up in your own cocktail. It's like making your own soup. It's like finding all the ingredients outside and just making your own dishes, own food, right? Instead of just expecting to get a ready-made food from the shop. You gotta make it on your own shit, because everyone is different, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So, and that takes time, and you cannot do it over a couple of weeks. It takes
Ah,
sometimes years, and there's nothing wrong with that. You are developing yourself, and
mhm.
you are exploring yourself. So, and that's really, I think, for me, that's a real detoxification for the
Uh-huh.
mind and the body,
Yeah.
that you basically detoxify all the conditioned theory, psychology, beliefs, feelings, emotions that you have experienced from the world, and
Mhm.
invest more on the bubble that when you were a kid, that joy.
Mhm.
Give it more love,
Yeah.
and yeah, and just work on your wounds by taking one day at a time. I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm.
for me, I think it took me almost 2.5 years to come to this stage where I can have this level of confidence that I can speak to you straightforward and telling you, I mean, share this knowledge, right?
Yes,
I,
yes.
I went through a lot of shit. I mean, at one point, I remember I was so fucked up, I cannot even get out of the bed. I was like bedridden for almost 2 months.
Yes,
It was that
yes.
bad. I mean, I was having so, it was like, I feel as if I was on drugs, that's how I feel. That's how bad the anxiety was for me.
Right.
And I was in so much panic, like so much fear. And I feel as if, I don't know how to say, it's like, uh, it's like you are lost and there is no way out of it. You just
Mhm.
feel completely lost in this in the realm of Hungry Ghost, and and the people have abandoned you, and there's no one to take care of you, and you are just gone.
Mhm.
And I think if the, the 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 thing that keep me going on this path of healing is the excitation. Sorry, is the I think it's not the excitation. It's more like the excitement. Yeah,
Mhm.
for self discovery, like figuring it out. Like, okay, even if I'm going to die, let's see how far I can go. It's
Uh-huh.
like I feel it more like a challenge, like a competition, like some kind of a journey. Because I realize that the worst thing that can happen to a human being is death, right? And if you give up, you are already dead, and it's like giving up is actual death.
Mm.
What we call as death is basically giving up, and
Yes.
because true death is just like that. You don't even realize when it happens, right?
Mm.
It's the fear of dying, the psychological fear that keep us basically depressed and defeated. And I was like this, okay, I'm bedridden. What can I do right now? So I start with like meditation. I Because I cannot get up and run or jog or walk, so I can just sit. Okay, so I just sit and just keep meditating. Sometimes I have to meditate for 3 hours straight.
Mm. Yeah.
And it was crazy. My parents were like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I told them I have to do it. I don't have a choice. Uh, so I just meditate sometimes for hours and hours. And I told my doctor, and he said, "Oh my God, you are becoming Buddha."
Uh, mm.
He told me that you shouldn't do it for that long, and I told him that that was before my treatment for ketamine injection,
Right.
and because the only way I can feel relaxed is when I was meditating.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, anything outside meditation is pure torture. Like,
Mm.
I feel as if my brain is exploding, and
Yeah.
it's like completely shredded. Just my whole nervous system is like crazy. Like, I I have I have severe pain all over my body,
Mm.
my back, especially my head. Feel like it's like someone is stabbing knife in my head,
Wow.
and someone is giving. I feel as if someone is giving me like drugs. Very
Mm.
high, and every single hour I'm getting a heavy dose of drug. That's how I feel for almost a year. I think, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Before my ketamine treatment, that how bad it was.
Mm.
But I keep just having this attitude of like, okay, even if I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do whatever I can. But I was so adamant. I'm gonna say I'm gonna die rather than I'm gonna take this antidepressant.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
So
Uh,
it was like, because I think it was one of the reasons I have this kind of mindset. It was because I was always a competitive person. Like, when I was a kid, I always have this do or die kind of mindset. So
mhm.
it helped me a lot to have this fighting spirit within me, even though I was pretty much dead. I say, and I think I live my life like, okay, if today is the last day of my life, how am I gonna live it? And
Mhm.
and later I find out that even Steve Jobs had the same concept when he lived his life. When he was going through cancer by himself, he had the same mindset. And so every morning I had to wake up and force myself to just get out of the bed and go and bathe myself. It was very hard, just putting water on your body, and you just feel like, I mean, you just feel like being drugged. Uh, and dizzy and all 24/7, like you
Yes.
feel like you're on drugs, but you keep doing the things. And uh, yeah, I think it takes a lot of perseverance and persistence, and
Mhm.
you figure out how powerful you are when you come out of something so intense. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even the it's like the treatment that I went through were also something that's not being suggested. I actually do it by my own self. I realized that okay, right now I need this, and then when I get better, I keep reducing it because the doctor told me to, after my ketamine injection for almost I think 1 month, it's like 6 IV infusion. He told me to keep taking these drugs, the antidepressant, and I refused to take it, but my parents just forced me to take it. And just because they were so adamant, I still took it for like 2 months, 3 months. That's it. And after that, I say, okay, I'm quitting it now.
Yeah.
So after 3 months, I just stopped doing it, and I just focus more on detoxification of the body by changing my diet and doing more yoga and holistic healing, homeopathy, and eventually I feel as if my 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 health is slowly and slowly coming back to me, and yeah, it's pretty good to
Yeah.
come out of something so intense.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 It does sound, extremely intense because this was on the brink of death, right? And
Exactly. I was like, yeah,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I almost come out of that. You can say that.
Mm.
And yeah, my father was laughing like few days ago when we were discussing about our hard times together, and he told me that if you even have to go to the hell, you will come out of it.
Mm.
I mean, your soul is pretty strong.
Yeah. Uh, yes.
But I think it's like it's not something that it's like self victory. If I don't
Mhm.
have the help of my parents, it was impossible.
Mhm.
So they helped me a lot with the money part for the
Mhm.
treatments because
Yes.
I was not capable to earn money at the time. So I have to go and live with them and go through the treatment. But they really helped me financially, and it's really important to have the support of the family during
Yeah.
this hard time. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know there are a lot of people who who are like homeless and they are having uh, severe anxiety,
Yes.
depression, even schizophrenia, uh, and even students who are being abandoned by their parents because they got divorced, right? And
Mhm.
they cannot focus on the study. They have autism and OCD and many other problems because of that, and the parents don't support them, and they just on their own.
Ah, yeah. That's really
Yeah,
tough.
it
Yeah.
it feels pretty bad that
Mm.
um, they cannot uh, even have the money to go for any treatment. I mean, if you think about it, there's the psychedelics, right? It took a lot of money. I mean, if you want to go and do the retreat, I think it's like $7,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, for one retreat. It's pretty expensive. If you're going for like a pretty nice one, I think it
Mhm.
starts from like 4,000 to 7,000, something like that.
Mm.
But I think it's still a lot of money, and being a student, they cannot afford this, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
one of my goal in the future is to make this medicine available at a cheaper rate. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
and because I personally feel that these people are really uh, kind of you know uh, using this as an advantage for their business,
Mhm.
charging
Mhm.
such a. I don't think they should charge such a
Yeah.
huge amount of money for the retreat.
Yes.
Um, but they are charging, and I think that's I don't know why they're doing it. Maybe that's the way life is, right? But uh, making it as a business is not really a good thing. From I mean, it's okay if you're working on it. It's fine to make it a business, but you have to make sure that the price. If you're keeping this price so high, right, then
Mm.
only a few people who are
Yes.
wealthy were
Yeah.
only able to get this treatment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and if you want to make it generic, then you have to, I guess, wait for another couple of decades
Mhm.
because uh, Even MDMA, after going through, I think they started working on for like 2 decades, right? Almost now.
mm, mm,
And after working on this medicine for 2 decades, they finally legalized it, maybe by next year, I guess,
mhm,
just for one psychedelic medicine, right, to become legalized. It's not even a psychedelic. It's basically an artificial psychedelic,
mm,
MDMA. It's a man-made drug. It's not plant-based, right? So
mm,
if that took like them like 20 years, just imagine what's going to happen for psilocybin or even MDMA. So,
mm,
and people cannot wait for that long amount of time, right?
mm,
So I think it's really important that the the NGOs step up and just help the people to go for this retreat at cheaper rate and makes centers all around the world. Because I think in most of the countries these drugs are like banned, right?
mhm.
You
Yes,
cannot get a psychedelic assisted psychotherapy in every country. Like only I think Canada they can do, right? Psilocybin.
I'm not sure. I think it's legal in Denver in the US. I know Jamaica. I know the Netherlands. And there's probably a few other countries in the southern hemisphere where it's possible to get this. But even there, it's usually very expensive. And I agree with you. It's I really, would like this to be available to much more people, to everybody who would benefit from it. And that means
Exactly.
bringing down the cost and sharing the knowledge, so people know that this exists and it is effective if you have the clarity, to take these psychedelics, knowing what you're taking there for, what the goal is, and you have somebody there who can help you, while you're taking this trip to, I guess, feel secure. That's basically what's needed, and it doesn't take thousands of dollars to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy, but I have this kind of a dream that every hospital having a shaman,
Mm,
their own psychedelic kind of like department there,
mm,
and they're working together with the doctors for with the patients.
mm, mm,
So, and it's like when the patient comes to a hospital, like we have choices. Do you want to go for Western medicine or you want to go for shamanic medicine, psychedelics?
mm, yeah.
And and it's up to the patient to decide which treatment they want to follow. Or it can be like that the doctors are themselves trained in this medicine, um, by working with the shaman. So you have one experienced shaman or a doctor with the medicine who has been drinking it for his whole life actually,
Mhm,
and you have another doctor who is basically more like analyzing and examining the so that they can reduce the risk of this medicine and make it
mhm,
more safer. So I think it's the Eastern medicine has to come, because you cannot just say okay Western medicine is all bad, right? Because it's it's not like a Western medicine is more like a band-aid. They support you, but they cannot go. But for much deeper problems where you need to go and just requires, like I said, much more. Western medicine is like a backup plan, right? Just
mhm,
giving you an extra force. But the real healing works, I think, comes from the holistic Eastern medicine. So it's great to see both the East and Western medicine in the one hospital, and they are working in harmony with each other. Because, for example, if you have a broken bone, you cannot use the. I mean, you can use Eastern medicine, but you still need some kind of surgery to make sure that it heals faster, right? The surgeon put the bone together, and then you can use the Eastern medicine to heal it quicker. So I
right.
think
Yeah.
there has to be an integration of both the Eastern and the Western uh, medicine, so that people can be benefited in the best way possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You see useful, I guess, capabilities in both of them, and you want people to be able to benefit from both, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because sometimes Western medicine is very important,
Mhm,
uh, but they are like temporary, like for a couple of days, just to keep you or come you out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. If you have a severed hand or something like that, it helps, to have somebody with a microscope and really clean room so they can go in and saw everything back together so it
Exactly.
works. But then, like you were saying, for healing, it needs to take the whole body and the mind also
Exactly.
into account. The right conditions for uh, letting the body's natural healing do the work,
Yeah,
and that means no stress with antibiotics or other products when it's not necessary. When it is, yes, sure, but
exactly.
not excessive. All of that, yeah, sure.
I,
Hmm.
I kind of feel like the Western medicine is like the judge,
Mm.
who is judging, and the Eastern medicine is more like the lawyer who is debating and doing the work, and the judge is basically just listening and understanding what the lawyers are saying.
Mm, 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 mm.
And yeah, because if you think about it, um, the Western medicine can help you to see if you are improving or not. But the real work is coming from the judge, from the lawyer, right? Who is doing the work, who's basically speaking and giving the facts and telling whatever the hell is going on and working on the case for the client. The judge is just sitting and listening. So that's the way it should work. Like the Eastern medicine doing the work, like psychedelics, for example, it's doing its work, right? And what the Western medicine can do, they can pinpoint, okay, it's curing this, it's doing this, that's how it's working. Instead of figuring it out, like how it's working, if they just see the working part, and I think that's more than enough to just realize, okay, if, for example, the cancer cells are going down, or the body capacity to handle stress is becoming much better, the body is becoming more resilient, they can do all these tests after the implementation of the Eastern medicine. So it can make people happy. Oh, okay, so we have a label, we are getting better, right? Instead of we judging about the working of the Eastern medicine, I think Western medicine can help us to give a deeper insight of the knowledge and the power that these holistic medicine carry. Yeah,
Right, right. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think
So tradition.
yeah,
Yes.
but I think the problem is that the scientists keep spending more time figuring it out how it's working. And that is crazy. I mean, you cannot figure this out, right? You cannot figure out a particular medicine because it's working on a deeper level. It's working on a how to say that? Uh, it's working on every part of your body. And
Mm.
unless you have a super big quantum computer, right? You cannot pinpoint the exact working of a particular medicine. This is crazy. But what you
Right.
can do is you can understand what it's doing rather
Mhm.
than why it's doing or how it's doing. The question that people need to ask is what's going on. That's it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Rather than how it's going on. That's really
Right.
important.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, if I'm following right, you're saying what you see is Western medicine focusing on a small area of where the I guess most visible signs that something's not going right are manifesting, and that's not enough for being able to understand the whole of what is going on, uh, and from the other side, Eastern medicine has a tradition of looking at I guess, how the person fits into life, into society, what is going on in their body as a whole, and they try to correct any imbalances they see at that level, and that helps the body naturally heal. And it sounds like you're saying we need this kind of holistic approach and then it's useful to look at the details to understand, how the holistic approach is helping. a combination of the two, an alliance of the two is really the best.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Because we also need the surgeons. If you have like a brain tumor, we need surgeons to intervene. Uh, but they cannot cure the tumor. They can, like I told before, they can give you a support. They can extend the time so that you can work on it, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I think the real healing comes from within instead of the outside, right?
Yeah, that's what you were saying that you went through. You had a really uh, almost life or actually life or death a couple of months there, and then it was extremely difficult. It took a lot of courage and determination, uh, but you used the curiosity and I guess yeah from childhood that you've always had
Yeah,
to look at the situation and want to see how far you could improve things
yeah,
just doing what felt right and
exactly.
you stuck to that even though you had this um, outside influence with the antidepressants that you felt was not doing really something good for you but you were able to hold it together, survive through that, and then
Yeah,
little by little, recover your health by taking care of yourself in a more natural and holistic way, right?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly, yeah, right. And I think it's also interesting to explore how much potential human beings carry to change their life. I mean, the 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 expectation and the possibilities are limitless for human beings. That we have so much uh, untapped quantum possibilities that we are never aware of. And once we start working on it, slowly and slowly, things start getting better. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that, and I just want to say a word about, we talked about the usefulness of psychedelics, but in situations where maybe it's those vicious cycles are not as maybe urgently dangerous.
yeah,
In my experience, I didn't take any psychedelics or anything like that, and I was in a similar life or death situations for a few months as well. And
yeah,
it's really talking with somebody else and receiving empathy, knowing that I mattered to somebody else. That was extremely healing, and I think that can receive that, the just the warmth from another human being. That's
yeah.
extremely healing. And so that's another possibility. You don't maybe always need the psychedelics.
Exactly. So, like I said, it just depends on how severe the condition. Like for some
Right.
people, they are so fucked up that they are almost non-receptive to any kind of love. Even the wife, the children, the parents, they all love the person, but he's so fucked up. Like he cannot, even though they're loving them, he just gonna reflect it back. And
Yes.
it's not like you can blame that person. He's so fucked up, literally. Like he's so uh, exhausted and broken down, completely drained that he cannot connect to that love or that
Yes.
empathy that the other person is giving them. And I
Yeah.
think for those conditions, you really need something strong like a
Right.
psychedelics that can
Yes.
actually break that vicious cycle, that
Yes.
can
Yes.
break that barrier and connect you,
Yes. Yes. That's
And
really important. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's really important to also see that we take plant-based psychedelics. Like for me personally, I haven't taken any plant-based. My own personal experience so far has been with ketamine,
Mhm.
and but I'm looking forward for, like I told you before, for my ayahuasca ceremony maybe this year.
Yeah.
Uh, what I realize is that the plants they are really much more uh, uh, helpful for healing on the psyche level. Like if you see the plant, the roots, they mimic the brain nervous system. So they almost a kind of analogy. And if you see the mushrooms, the mushroom is basically like almost like an entity. If you see the all the mushrooms, they grow like the like a living conscious being by itself, especially
Mhm.
the magic mushrooms. Yeah. And I even heard about lion's mane mushroom. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. They also grow like almost like branching off so many branches, like spreading all across the planet Earth. And
Mhm.
they, it's kind of intriguing, but I think the plant they can really uh, are like the teachers. They can basically bring our consciousness back into track, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's really important to take uh, plant-based psychedelics compared to just man-made. Like, I mean, it's good. Like, but if you really wanna, um, I think, have a deeper healing, you should take a plant-based because you are basically ingesting a, a wisdom of a conscious being, right?
Mhm. So you see I guess an aspect that's not just materialistic. There's something else, right? Um,
Exactly,
there's a link between all living beings that's I guess deeper than what we can see. That's what
exactly,
you're saying. Yeah.
exactly. I
Mm.
mean, even in spirituality, trees are considered sacred, right? Because they are so still and they are so filled with love and humble. You know, the branches falling off, spreading arms, and
Mm.
I think the native people even regard trees as their god, or even they love the nature so much. And I'm not sure if you have seen the movie The Avatar. Did you know that movie Avatar?
Yes.
Yeah, so the native people they love this tree, and
Mm.
I remember a scene in the movie where the tree was having this branches, and they tap into that branch using the tail of their head, and the
Yeah.
tree can heal the body of a person by their own consciousness. It was
Uh,
amazing.
uh,
and and I personally feel the psychedelics are similar. They basically work like that. Uh,
mm.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's an area that I haven't really looked that much into, so I don't know much about that. It so far it seems a bit, uh, I guess, unlikely to me, but I'm happy to be shown that no, there is something actually there. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much sum up the detoxification for the mind and the body, I guess. So
Mhm.
you cannot just focus on eating the right food or doing the just focusing on the gut. You also need to focus on the belief, the
Yes.
thoughts, your your consciousness. You have to keep
Uh-huh.
both of them together at the same time, and basically it's like one affecting the another. So
Mhm.
it's impossible to heal just by focusing on one part of life.
Mhm.
Like I
Yes.
remember Eckhart told he was suicidally depressed for like 4 or 5 years, I think, right?
Uh,
And he just woke up one day completely enlightened. I mean, that's a rare case. I mean, I wish this could happen to every human being. But more often than not, I guess we have to just find our way back by, I guess, working hard on it and just making mistakes and then learning from it and just keep progressing. I mean, his case is really like a complete great example. I mean,
uh-huh.
but yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how was your experience with the healing journey? Like, if
Well,
you want to summarize like in 5 minutes.
uh, yeah, yeah. It's extreme hopelessness and anxiety uh, for a few months, and yeah, I thought um, I was thinking of my children and thinking, I can't. I don't want to just give up and die. Today, I need to um, make it through another hour and then another hour. I went
Wow.
through each day like that for 5 months, pretty
Oh my
much.
God. Wow.
The, the nights I was pretty much okay, but it started in the morning and until evening. It was hard like that. Um, so that was really exhausting. Like you were saying, the my health suffered really a lot, and it took a couple of years to come out of that and rebuild my health. Um, and like you were saying, it was a matter of figuring out, what were the ideas and the reasons for why I had all this, mm, I guess, lack of.
Neurolog
Sorry?
neurological loops. Neurological loops.
Yeah, right. Yes, yes. That were keeping me convinced that I was, worthless and didn't deserve to live. And it would be better for everybody if I just went away and died.
Wow.
So figuring out, where that came from, it took a couple of years, but yeah, I'm really glad. I'm very grateful to the people, who helped me start to reconnect with myself, so that I could little by little find some peace again. And yeah, so it was a matter of detoxifying, okay, like saying, finding those where these came from, and that's why I've been interested in trauma, childhood trauma, and also PTSD, complex PTSD.
Yeah.
I've been trying to learn about as much as I can, because finding all the areas in the mind and the body, because the two are just one continuum. Um, Finding those and then bringing attention to them has been the way to release the hold that's been having on me for my whole life. So that's been very useful. Then learning about attachment also, how we need um, the security of knowing that if we're in danger, somebody's going to be there to help us when we're little and helpless. That's so critical for life, and those of us
Right.
who have enough of that, it can really throw us on a really painful course through life. So
Yeah.
understanding that and figuring out how to come back from that and heal, that's been also very important. And yeah, so that's
So,
that's my.
so doesn't it feel good to come out of something so intense?
It does, huh? It
Right?
really
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
It's like
You,
almost like you can now overcome any challenge in life once you overcome something so intense, right? So
yeah.
I think I heard a quote from Les Brown. I think it's a motivational speaker. He says, "Something that doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Yeah, some of the things, maybe not everything, but yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
but
yes,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty
definitely
nice concept,
is.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it is. To some extent,
definitely.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You're saying that once you have gone through this experience, you found yourself again, and once you have this connection with yourself, then really not much can affect you except getting hit by a truck or something like that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
psychologically, you're completely solid now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so grateful that whatever that happened to me in the past, because it's made me realize what matters in life and what doesn't matter in life, right? It kind of like opened up my level of consciousness,
Mm.
and I think you must experience a similar experience, that you are never the same person that you used to be before this happened, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's almost like the universe force you to change or
Mm.
die. It's like that. you
Yeah,
change or you die.
yeah. You become who you are. Uh, that
Or
you had before.
more precisely, you become who you are meant to be, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
way that the nature wants you to live, right?
yeah. That's how we, yeah, how we, I guess, started from, and that the adverse experiences that we had pushed us to deviate from in order to survive, and now we can get back to that and thrive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to say before we wrap this up? Uh,
Oh, we started, wanting to do something half an hour long. I
yeah,
think we're
I think we
really
end up
doing
like
that.
1 hour 25 minutes now.
Wow, wow. Okay, yeah, yeah. But hopefully it
Probably,
will be interesting too.
yeah. Probably we can just upload like in three parts, like half an hour for
Yeah,
each.
yeah. Right.
That will be, I think, fine. Or maybe
Okay.
you can just upload the whole video. I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah. So yeah. So great. So anything else you want to say?
Just, pertaining to this, I was watching Joe Rogan video the other day that lasts, I think, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and he was saying that millions of people watch this despite how long it is, because they were talking of things that were interesting a lot of people. So if it's interesting, people will watch. I hope this was interesting. Of course, maybe not as much as that other, but yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully
Anyway.
some people
Yeah.
will.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe we can just help. Even if you can help us, some one person is more than enough, right? The job is done, I guess.
yeah. And I want to say, how much I appreciate your enthusiasm, and how expressive you are in talking about, what's important to you and what you understood and how hard it was. Because I think that's what really conveys to people, that, hey, people are suffering, and, there are possibilities for healing. And yeah, that's what we want people to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's also important to understand that once someone gets better, they just started clinging on to that person. Even I was that person. Like, if someone gets better, I was just want to just follow that person completely. So I just want to give up my own sense of energy and
Yeah.
just like latch on to that person.
Mhm.
Uh, because I think no one is 100% perfect, right? So you gotta figure out your own journey, um, and how you can get better, right? You cannot just blindly follow someone just because they get cured by doing something. Doesn't mean that you will get cured. It's possible, but not guaranteed, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You
Mhm.
gotta
Yeah,
figure
it's
out your,
following
yeah,
the way.
exactly. You have to figure it out by yourself and by going deeper. And
Mm.
yeah, like I still struggle with some of the health problems, like back pains or sometimes neck pain. But
Yeah.
it's not like I'm like 100%. Like, no one can be 100%. Like, this is life, right? You cannot overcome everything.
Yes, yes.
No one, because I think people really want someone to become perfectly
Uh,
like healthy, and then they will follow someone else. That's
uh,
like the
uh,
usual stigma that people carry in their mind. Like,
yes,
someone
yes.
has to be completely healthy in order for them to listen to someone else or to even go there, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that is just impossible, right? This is life. Shit can happen at any time.
yes,
Right.
yes, yeah, yeah. Mm.
So, do you
Yeah,
still have any kind of problem that you would like to address? Like, you still struggle with, like some kind of
yeah, yeah. Sometimes I still get uh, like suddenly very afraid, and uh, each time it's happened, like maybe I don't know, dozen times in the past year, I've been able to link it to what happened in my early childhood, and I know now, that there's just basically two things that trigger these. I mean, that situations in everyday life trigger these two fears. So there's apparently any number left of triggers for these things, and each time I find one, it helps me, okay, um, calm that down and reduce its, I guess, um, mm, importance in yeah, it becomes less stressful for the next times. But yeah, I'm still finding this kind of thing, and what was hopeful is that each time, it takes less and less time to figure out, okay, oh, it's again this same thing, but in this other manifestation of it that I haven't seen before, and little by little, it's reducing, and yeah, it makes for happier and happier living. So I don't know if it's ever going to be finished, but it's getting smaller all the time, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it's great, right? So yeah, I just want the audience to know that people still have challenges there. You cannot be free from them, but you can figure out a way to just reduce them to the level where you can just live your life, right?
Right. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you still can get anxious and depressed sometimes. It's life. You cannot just expect to just. But you are no longer stuck in that vicious cycle. That's the main thing, I think, that we
Right.
need to come out of it, right?
Yes. Yes. It can last, a few hours, maybe half a day,
Yeah,
and then you're out of it. It doesn't last weeks and months anymore.
exactly. It's not like it doesn't make your life like worthless that anymore or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the more you practice, the better you get at it.
Mm, exactly.
It's really important to keep believing it's possible to
Mm,
just keep telling it to yourself, even though you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess.
yeah. Yeah. That's so useful to know, because when you're deep in it, and you don't see this light, it's very tempting to believe that okay, there is no exit. It
Exactly.
is completely dark here, and I'm going to die here, and let's just cut the pain and save myself all that suffering and end it.
Right.
But in fact, there is a whole exit to the tunnel and a whole life after it. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. Well, great.
So I think we should stop now.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much,
So
Rachid.
yeah, yeah, you
And
too. Thank you so much, and yeah, have a nice day. It's for me. It's not now nighttime, right?
yeah,
It's 8 p.m. now. What's time there?
uh, yeah. Here it's almost 4 in the afternoon. So yeah, still some, and
I
it's
think it's
sunny.
4 hours, right? 4 hours gap.
Yeah, apparently. Yes, yes.
Great, great.
Right.
All
Okay.
right, then maybe you can hang out more in the future.
I hope so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you to you as well.
Yeah. All right, then see you. Bye bye.
Take care, Rachid. Bye bye.
Yeah, you
Thank
too. Bye bye.